Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Maple Grove Scripture Reading Podcast. So last time we were in the heart of Elihu's theology of affliction. He was saying that God is mighty but despises no one, that his eye never leaves the righteous, that the cords of affliction are the place where he speaks and opens the ear to correction. Then he talked about there being two paths out of suffering, the one who hears and returns, and the one who dies without knowledge. And then you had the reversal at the end. Those who suffer, he delivers in their suffering. He speaks to them in their affliction, not after, but in. Well, today we're going to be in verses 16 through 25 of chapter 36, where Elihu is going to turn from the general principle to a more specific appeal, and he's going to talk to Job directly. So let me go through that. He is wooing you from the jaws of distress to a spacious place free from restriction, to the comfort of your table laden with choice food. But now you are laden with the judgment due the wicked. Judgment and justice have taken hold of you. Be careful that no one entices you by riches. Do not let a large bribe turn you aside. Would your wealth or even all your mighty efforts sustain you so you would not be in distress? Do not long for the night to drag people away from their homes. Beware of turning to evil, which you seem to prefer to affliction. God is exalted in his power. Who is a teacher like him? Who has prescribed his ways for him, or said to him, you have done wrong? Remember to extol his work, which people have praised in song. All humanity has seen it. Mortals gaze on it from afar. So he starts by saying he's wooing you from the jaws of distress to a spacious place free from restriction, to the comfort of your table laden with choice food. And that word wooing, it's unusual, like you don't expect it in a theological argument. Wooing is what you do when you want somebody to come willingly, not when you're commanding compliance. It implies gentleness or patience, an appeal to desire rather than obligation. Elihu is saying that's what God is doing with Job. He's not dragging Job out of the suffering. He's not waiting for Job to hit some threshold of compliance. He's drawing him, and he's doing it gently and persistently toward a wide and open place. The contrast built into the verse is also worth noting. He says jaws of distress and then a spacious place free from restriction. So the image of suffering is narrow and constrained. It's closing in on you. The jaws suggest something that grips, that has you in it. Against that is the wide open space where you have room to move and to breathe. And you have a table with food on it. God is trying to bring Job from the one to the other, according to Elihu. And the method is wooing. And again, it's a different picture of God than what Job's friends have painted. They described a God who was essentially a moral auditor, checking Job's account and finding it short. Elihu is describing a God who's actively, tenderly working to bring a suffering person into restoration. The suffering hasn't ended the relationship. God is still reaching out. Elihu continues, saying, but now you are laden with the judgment due the wicked. Judgment and justice have taken hold of you. So you have the tenderness in verse 16, and this is a little different, a little harder. Elihu shifts from the offer to the assessment. And his argument here is that Job, in the way he has responded to his suffering, has manifested the same spirit as the wicked. Not in the crimes his friends accused him of, but in the posture of his heart during the affliction. He has complained against God's government. He has demanded an audience in his own terms. He has set up his own standard of justice and measured God against it. That's the judgment Elihu is pointing to, not the original suffering, which Elihu doesn't claim to fully explain, but Job's response to the suffering. Judgment and justice have taken hold of you, he says. The way Job has been handling this is putting him in some pretty dangerous theological territory. And then Elihu gives Job three specific warnings. The first is about wealth. Be careful that no one entices you by riches. Do not let a large bribe turn you aside. This is maybe a little puzzling because Job doesn't have riches at this point. like he's lost everything. But the logic seems to be, don't pursue restoration through the wrong means. Don't be the kind of person who's looking for a financial exit from the suffering instead of genuine turning toward God. The longing for the old prosperity could itself become a distraction from what the suffering is trying to accomplish. Now, the second warning is about death, where he says, do not long for the night to drag people away from their homes. Job had at various points wished he could die. He described death as a release, a place where the suffering would end. And Elihu is pressing on that. He says, don't run toward death as your way out. What you'd find in death in this state of mind is not what you're imagining. Now, the third warning may be the sharpest one of them all. Beware of turning to evil, which you seem to prefer to affliction. Elihu is saying pretty directly, the pattern of your response has been to choose the path of complaint and resistance rather than the path of submission and learning. You seem to prefer iniquity to affliction. You'd prefer to accuse God rather than accept that the affliction might be teaching you something. That can be hard to hear for somebody in Job's condition, and it might not be entirely fair because Job's pain was very real, and his wrestling with God was itself a form of faith, as we talked about. But Elihu's not entirely wrong either. There had been moments in Job's speeches where his complaints maybe crossed into something that looked a little bit more like accusation instead of lament. So he continues on. He says, God is exalted in his power, who's a teacher like him, who has prescribed his ways for him or said to him, you have done wrong. After the warning, he's pivoting here. He's making a moral argument, and now he shifts to something else entirely. He lifts his eyes from Job's situation and points to who God is, who's a teacher like him. And the question's rhetorical. It's not really answerable other than nobody. Like, God teaches in a way that nothing else does. He uses creation, weather, history, suffering. The range of his instruction is the entire world, and the quality of it is beyond anything a human teacher can produce. Who has prescribed his ways for him? Again, nobody. That was the point back in chapter 35. He is not dependent on anybody. No one has a right to advise him or correct him. He acts from his own purposes according to his own wisdom. Then he finishes by saying, or said to him, you have done wrong. And that's the question that's pointed maybe way direct at Job. Can you actually say that? He's saying, can you stand before God and say that you've caught him in an error, that he owed you better treatment and failed to deliver? Elihu's not trying to silence Job's pain. He's just pressing on Job's conclusion, the implication that God made a mistake somewhere in how he handled this. So he continues on in the passage saying, remember to extol his work, which people have praised in song. All humanity has seen it. Mortals gaze on it from afar. So this is the instruction Elihu draws from the pivot. Don't shrink down to your own situation. Look at the whole of what God has done. Look at what every generation of human beings has been able to see of his power and wisdom in the works of creation. All humanity has seen it. The whole of human history has been encountering the evidence of who God is and responding with praise. So the word extol, that's not just like some passive admiration. It is active and deliberate. Elihu is telling Job to make the choice to look up and see what's there to be seen, to let what every human being can observe about God's greatness recalibrate your framework. That instruction sits right where the edge where Job is heading. He promised to bring knowledge from afar. He's been working towards something in creation, some argument rooted in what you can see when you look at the sky, and he's about to get there. So next time, we'll go through verses 26 through 33 of chapter 36, and the argument from creation now is beginning. You got rain, lightning, thunder, water drawn up from the sea, his hands filled with lightning. We'll get to that next time, but until then, hope you have a great day, and we'll talk again soon. God bless.